I want to kind of close this conversation though, thinking and talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I have to say that I've been watching, learning, growing in my information about Justice Ginsburg. The Supreme Court can be a place you might not pay attention to. I feel like there's some Americans that might just not be tuned in and tapped into like the importance, I was explaining to my daughter the importance of a justice on the Supreme Court. And, we can remember when President Obama tried his best to get Merrick Garland through, and it was blocked. And it brings up for me a few things, and I'll just say, it brings up for me the hypocrisy. If they're actually going to try to push someone through in the next 45 days, it brings up the hypocrisy. It brings up to me, and this is just me, so don't be mad at anybody else on the panel, but the spinelessness of like the Senate and the Congress people on the Republican side, not to be like, look at how we handle that. So now we need to actually honor like that all those talking points. We need to honor those now. But anyway, that's me. But it like brings me out in watching All In and watching The Uncomfortable Truth. One of those documentaries flagged how often the Supreme Court was called on in the past around things like declaring, where there was a legislation around enslavement or characterizing people as full people. There was like, they were involved in decisions like that along the way, and often voted in opposition to those things many, many years ago. And so for me, they kind of hold a lot of the human rights, the deep pulse of this country is held in that body in a way that I think we just don't realize the importance until we have a case that's vitally important. And so I wanted to lift her up as someone who was like in it and like really trying to hold on. And I want to lift her up as someone who has contributed so very much to this country. And wanted to get your closing thoughts on where do we go with the Supreme Court nomination now? What can we actually do? I mean, I'm just prayerful that the Senate can really work to do some blocking or whatever. But your thoughts on the notorious RBG and the moment we're in with this crucial transition?
I'll say that, part of this idea about perfect people looking for the perfect candidate, I get a lot of news on Twitter. I tend to, follow a lot of progressive folks. And so there was she was anti-Kaepernick. Well, she didn't think that indigenous Native Americans had a right to their land. And, so again, it's like, it's an interesting dynamic. So again, the expectation that, I'm looking for the perfect human. It's like, you're never going to find that. And so what she contributed for women, and I'm going to say men too. I don't remember the name of that movie that was out a couple years ago on RBG's personal life, and how there was a man who was trying to, who stayed at home to take care of his mother, but then couldn't get resources because he was a man, but if he was a woman. So again, it's like when we have human rights, they apply to everyone. So women's rights benefit men, right? Rights for people of color benefit white people. And so and then her just, again, this life of service. So even if you do one or two things that I disagree with, it's like this sense of you're continuing to be committed to sharing human rights, sharing access, sharing justice. So, I mean, her modeling was amazing. I'm waiting, I'm hoping, expecting the Democrats to not allow Trump to get a nomination. I have expected and waited on Democrats to do a lot of things in the past 4 years that haven't necessarily happened. I feel like this is a stake in the ground, and I am looking forward to them making this fair.
Yeah, I can just add really quickly. Damali, you touched on the hypocrisy. Lindsey Graham, like I can't, that was the one that I was like, I'm sure you're not going to honor this statement you made. I'm sure you're going to put a spin on it. I'm curious to see how you're going to spin it. So yeah, I think my expectation. I mean, obviously, a lot. You all both talked a lot about RBG and her legacy, the things she did for this country. And I think it is so vital, so important that Democrats should do anything they need to do to ensure that Trump does not get to appoint this justice, because for so many reasons, but even from their own words, I'm just like, this it should not happen.
Yeah, I think everything that you both said, everything all three of you said, and I think, noticing how precarious this country is. I mean, this is not my own original words, seeing things on Twitter, but really how precarious we are as a country if we're relying so much on this 87-year-old woman to keep us in check and to keep us going in the right direction. That really says a lot. And I also am hopeful that Democrats will put a stake in the ground. I have not looked into if there are people we can call. I'm not quite sure, but I will spend some time looking into that in the next little while. And yeah, her legacy is just really, something that she said that I read about. Really, I feel trying to do what a justice is supposed to do, and definitely she made decisions that I don't know those cases you talked about, Julie, but I also want to learn about that. But I'm sure she's made decisions that I don't necessarily agree with, but I feel was very convicted to do what she saw as right in the spirit of the law and in the spirit of actual justice. So really admiring that and really hoping we can get someone on that court who is able to carry on that spirit.
Thank you all. And it's so funny because I talk about cancel culture sometimes and say, well, if we really got to cancel everyone who makes a mistake or goes, does something that we don't agree with, I would be canceled. I would be canceled on so many levels. There would be a cancel next to me. So, I'm not for cancel culture at all. And I think that, like everyone pointed to, there were things that she contributed that I think are beyond reproach, and they're things that we could be critical about, which I think is our point today, is that, we really need the space to be critical, but also to have a certain moral kind of compass that we can feel confident that is being kind of used in the highest office to do things that are going to impact people as positively as possible. So that's kind of where I leave it today in thinking about the 2020 election. And there goes Ed. I might be able to keep that in.
Eddie agrees. If Eddie had thumbs, he would vote too. And Damali, I think what you're doing here is a piece of it too, is, let's just share conversations person to person. So thanks for bringing us together, Damali.
And thank you all for saying yes and being here, being my friends and being willing to speak. I love each one of you for all the reasons and for different reasons. So thank you. I'll go get my ice cream.